The sun was just rising when Adam walked down the narrow dirt path toward the small lake near the edge of his property. He liked to begin his mornings there, enjoying the peace of the water and the soft sounds of birds. For years, the lake had been his quiet place. His grandfather had left him the land, and Adam treated it with care. The grass was trimmed, the trees were kept healthy, and the path was always clear. But that morning, something was wrong. From a distance, Adam saw a shape that did not belong. It stood near the shoreline where there should have been only tall grass and sand. As he got closer, he realized it was a building. A cabin. Adam stopped in shock. He knew every inch of his land. There had never been a cabin here before. The structure looked newly built, with fresh wooden walls and a metal roof that still shone in the sunlight. Smoke curled from a small chimney, and there were chairs on a porch that faced the lake. Someone had not only built this cabin, but they were using it. He marched closer, his boots crunching against the gravel. A sign hung on the cabin wall. It read, "Property of Lakeview HOA. Private use only." Adam's chest tightened. The HOA, the Homeowners Association, was the group that managed the neighborhood on the far side of the lake. They were strict about rules, charging fees, and giving warnings for small things like grass being too tall or fences being painted the wrong color. Adam had always disliked them, but he had never imagined they would do something like this. "This is my land," Adam muttered under his breath. His grandfather's will and the property maps were clear. The lake and the ground around it belonged to his family, not the HOA. He felt anger rising inside him. Before he could think of what to do, the cabin door opened. A tall man in a neat shirt stepped out, holding a clipboard. Behind him followed two other people carrying folders. They looked at Adam like he was the one trespassing. "Can I help you?" the man asked sharply. "You can explain why this cabin is on my land," Adam replied, keeping his voice calm even though his heart was racing. The man gave a small laugh. "This is not your land. It belongs to Lakeview HOA. We built this cabin for our members. You must be mistaken." Adam shook his head firmly. "I am not mistaken. My grandfather left me this land. I have the papers. This is my lake, my property. You had no right to build here." The man's smile faded. His eyes narrowed, and he wrote something quickly on his clipboard. "You may want to check again. Our records show this area as common space. You will leave now, or we will report you." Adam could hardly believe the man's words. The boldness of it all stunned him. They had walked onto his land, built a cabin, claimed it as theirs, and now acted as if he was the intruder. He turned and walked away, not because he accepted their claim, but because he knew this needed more than an argument. He needed proof, strong proof. He returned to his house, pulled out the old wooden box that held his grandfather's papers, and spread them across the table. There was the deed, the maps, and the signatures from the county office. Everything showed clearly that the lake and the ground around it belonged to Adam. Still, he knew the HOA would not give up easily. They had money, lawyers, and influence. But Adam had the truth. He decided he would fight. That evening, Adam went back to the lake. The cabin lights glowed in the distance, and he could hear voices and laughter inside. It made his stomach twist. They were enjoying a place that was his, acting as if he did not exist. He stood there for a long time, watching the reflection of the cabin shimmer on the water. Adam made a silent promise to himself. He would not let them take what belonged to his family. He would find a way to set things right. The fight had just begun, and he was ready for it. The next morning, Adam woke with a clear plan. He gathered the deed, the property maps, and his grandfather's signed papers. He put them neatly into a folder and headed toward the office of the Lakeview HOA. He had lived near them for years, but he had never stepped inside their building before. The office was in a small brick building near the main road. A sign above the door read, "Lakeview HOA, serving our community." Adam walked in and found a woman sitting behind a desk, typing on a computer. She looked up and gave him a practiced smile. "Good morning. How may I help you?" she asked politely. Adam placed his folder on the counter. "There is a cabin on my land by the lake. Your group built it without my consent. I want to speak to the person in charge." The woman's smile faltered for just a second before she regained her professional tone. "Do you have an appointment?" "No," Adam said firmly. "But this is important. Someone here has made a serious mistake." She hesitated, then picked up the phone. After a short call, she pointed toward a door at the end of the hall. "You can meet with Mr. Green. He is the president of the HOA." Adam thanked her and walked to the door. He knocked once before entering. Inside, a middle-aged man with gray hair and sharp glasses sat behind a large desk covered in files. He looked up as Adam stepped inside. "You must be the man from the lake," Mr. Green said, his tone calm but cold. "Please, have a seat." Adam stayed standing. "I don't need a seat. I need answers. Why did your group build a cabin on my property?" Mr. Green leaned back in his chair, folding his hands together. "That land is not yours. It belongs to the community. We developed that area years ago. The cabin was built for our members to enjoy. If you believe otherwise, then you must be mistaken." Adam opened his folder and spread the papers on the desk. "This is the deed. Here is the county map with the borders marked. My grandfather bought this land, and he left it to me. The lake and the land around it are mine. You had no right." Mr. Green glanced at the papers but did not even touch them. "Our records say differently. We have documents that show the lake as common property. If you think you can challenge that, you may try, but it will not be easy. Do you understand?" Adam's jaw tightened. "I understand that you are trying to take what does not belong to you. I will not allow that." For the first time, Mr. Green's calm face showed a hint of irritation. He adjusted his glasses and said, "Be careful with your words. The HOA has rules and authority. You live near our community. You benefit from the work we do. If you cause trouble, you may regret it." Adam did not back down. "The only trouble here is that your group thinks power gives you the right to steal. But I have proof, and I will protect my land." Mr. Green gave a small smile that did not reach his eyes. "We will see. Perhaps this matter can be settled in court if you are so confident." Adam gathered his papers, refusing to let anger control him. "Then I will see you in court." He left the office, his hands gripping the folder tightly. Outside, he took a deep breath of fresh air, trying to calm the storm inside his chest. He had expected resistance, but the boldness of Mr. Green still surprised him. They acted as if the land was theirs simply because they wanted it. That evening, Adam returned to the lake. The cabin was busier than before. Several cars were parked near the path, and he could hear voices and laughter coming from inside. People sat on the porch, sipping drinks and watching the sunset. They acted as though they owned the view, as though Adam was invisible. Adam stood quietly at the edge of the trees, watching. He felt frustration but also determination. This was not the time to act with anger. He would gather more evidence, speak with the county office, and make sure every paper was in order. The HOA thought they could scare him into silence. They thought money and lawyers would break him. But Adam had something stronger. He had truth, patience, and the will to fight for what was right. As the last light of the sun faded over the lake, Adam whispered to himself, "They will not win. This land is mine, and I will not give it up." The next morning, Adam drove to the county office with his folder of documents sitting on the passenger seat. The road was quiet, but his thoughts were not. He kept going over the meeting with Mr. Green. The way the man had dismissed his proof made Adam uneasy. If the HOA really had papers of their own, this fight was going to be harder than he expected. When Adam reached the county building, he walked inside and found the records department. Behind the counter sat an older clerk with silver hair and glasses sliding down his nose. The clerk looked up and greeted him with a polite nod. "Good morning. How can I help you today?" Adam placed his folder on the counter. "I need to confirm ownership of the land by the lake. There's been a dispute. I believe my grandfather left it to me, but the HOA claims it belongs to them." The clerk raised his eyebrows. "The lake? That land has caused confusion before. Let me check the files." He stood and disappeared into the back room filled with shelves of records. Adam waited, his fingers tapping nervously on the counter. After several minutes, the clerk returned carrying a large book and a rolled map. He placed them carefully on the counter and opened the book to a marked page. "Here is the original purchase," the clerk explained. "Your grandfather bought the land nearly 40 years ago. His name is here, and the map confirms the borders." Adam leaned closer, his eyes scanning the familiar name. Relief spread through him like warm sunlight. "So it is mine. I was right." The clerk nodded but then sighed. "It is not so simple. The HOA has submitted claims over the years, saying the lake area should be counted as shared property for the neighborhood. They have their own set of maps. Some of them are newer than these." Adam frowned. "But those maps are false. How can they change something that was never theirs?" The clerk gave a tired smile. "It happens more often than you think. Associations file claims, and unless someone challenges them, those claims remain. You will need more than the old deed. You will need an official survey to confirm the boundaries again." Adam straightened. "Then I will request a survey. I want this done properly." The clerk nodded. "That is the right step. It will take time, but once the survey is complete, the truth will be clear. Until then, be careful. The HOA is powerful, and they do not like being challenged." Adam thanked him and left the office. The sun was high now, shining on the town streets, but Adam felt the weight of the battle ahead pressing on his shoulders. He had proof, but it would not be enough without the survey. He would need patience and strength. Later that afternoon, Adam visited his neighbor, an older man named Tom who had lived near the lake for decades. Tom sat on his porch with a cup of tea, and he welcomed Adam warmly. "You look troubled, son," Tom said. "What's going on?" Adam explained everything, from the cabin to the meeting with Mr. Green. Tom listened closely, his brow furrowing deeper with each word. "I remember when your grandfather bought that land," Tom said firmly. "I was here. I saw him working on the property myself. That land has always belonged to your family. The HOA is trying to pull tricks, nothing more." Adam felt comfort in Tom's words. "Would you be willing to say that if this goes to court?" "Of course," Tom said without hesitation. I will not let them erase history. Your grandfather was an honest man. He built a good life here, and no one should take that away from you. Encouraged, Adam returned home with new determination. That evening, he walked back to the lake. The cabin lights were glowing again, and the sound of laughter drifted across the water. The sight still filled him with anger, but now he also felt resolve. He imagined the day when the surveyors would come, marking the borders and proving the truth. He imagined standing in court with the deed in his hand, showing everyone that the land was his. The HOA might have power, but Adam had history, witnesses, and the law on his side. As the moon rose above the lake, Adam whispered to himself, "This fight is not only for me. It is for my grandfather's memory. They will not steal what he worked for." The struggle had grown larger, but so had Adam's determination. The battle lines were clear now, and he was ready to face whatever came next. Days passed, and Adam waited for the county survey to begin. He had filed the request and submitted all his grandfather's papers, but the process was slow. The county office told him it might take weeks before surveyors arrived. During that time, the HOA used the cabin more than ever. Every evening, Adam walked to the lake and saw cars parked near the shore. Families sat on the porch of the cabin, children played by the water, and sometimes music drifted through the trees. It was as if the cabin had always been theirs. Every laugh, every careless footprint on the soil felt like a wound to Adam. One evening, as Adam stood by the trees, he noticed something new. The HOA had begun adding a dock. Wooden planks stretched into the water, hammered into place by two men with tools. Adam's heart pounded. They were not only using his land, they were expanding, digging deeper into what was rightfully his. He turned and walked back home with heavy steps. Inside his house, he paced the floor. The deed lay on the table, the papers spread out like silent witnesses. He thought of his grandfather, the long summers they had spent fishing by the lake, and the promise he had made to protect the land. Waiting for the county survey felt unbearable. Every day the HOA grew bolder, and every day his land slipped further from his hands. Adam realized he could not stand by any longer. If the law moved slowly, he would act swiftly. The next morning, Adam made his decision. He would remove the cabin himself. It was built without permission, without his consent, and on his land. No paper in the world could justify what the HOA had done. He would tear it down and show them that their power stopped at his borders. Adam began planning carefully. He rented a small bulldozer from a local equipment company, paying with his savings. The owner of the rental yard asked him what the machine was for, and Adam only replied, "Old structure removal." It was not a lie. He also gathered tools, heavy gloves, a crowbar, and a hammer. He worked quietly, telling no one of his plan, not even Tom. He knew his neighbor would support him, but Adam wanted no one else caught in the storm that would follow. On a gray morning when the lake was quiet and the cabin's visitors had gone, Adam drove the bulldozer down the path. The machine rumbled like thunder through the trees. His hands were steady on the controls, his heart heavy but firm. When he reached the cabin, he parked for a moment and stepped out. He walked around the building, studying its fresh walls and polished porch. It looked strong, but Adam saw it differently. To him, it was a symbol of arrogance, a mark of disrespect. It did not belong. He climbed back onto the bulldozer, started the engine, and pushed the metal blade forward. With a loud crack, the porch shattered. Wood splintered and scattered across the grass. Adam pushed again, harder, and the front wall broke apart. Windows smashed, the roof bent, and soon the proud cabin was nothing but broken boards and twisted metal. The sound echoed across the lake, carrying far into the air. Birds fled from the trees, and the water rippled with the force of the collapse. Adam did not stop until the entire cabin lay in ruins. The dock, half-built, was torn up as well, its planks ripped from the water. When the dust settled, Adam shut off the engine. He stepped down from the bulldozer and stood in silence, breathing heavily. The cabin was gone. His land was free again, open to the sky as it had always been. Adam felt no joy, only calm certainty. He had done what needed to be done. He knew the HOA would come after him. He knew Mr. Green would rage, and papers would soon arrive with heavy stamps and signatures. But Adam was ready. He would face them in court if he must. That evening, as the sun sank over the water, Adam stood by the lake once more. The ruins of the cabin lay behind him, and the reflection of the open shore shone bright on the surface of the water. For the first time in weeks, the lake looked like it belonged again. Adam whispered quietly, "This is how it should be. No one will take it from me." The bold step was taken. Now the storm was coming. The morning after Adam demolished the cabin, the quiet of his home was broken by a loud knock on the door. Adam opened it to find a man in a suit standing on the porch. The man carried a thick envelope in his hand. "Are you Adam Miller?" the man asked. "Yes," Adam replied. The man handed him the envelope. "You've been served. The Lakeview HOA is filing a lawsuit against you." Without another word, the man turned and walked back to his car. Adam stood still for a moment, the envelope heavy in his hands. He closed the door and sat at the kitchen table before opening it. Inside were pages filled with legal words, but one thing was clear. The HOA accused him of destroying community property, causing damages worth thousands of dollars. They demanded payment and punishment. Adam's stomach tightened, but he refused to panic. He knew the truth. The cabin was never theirs to begin with. Still, the power of the HOA was real. They had lawyers, money, and influence. Adam had only his papers, his memory of his grandfather's land, and his own will. That evening, Adam walked over to Tom's house to share the news. Tom listened carefully, his eyes narrowing as he heard about the lawsuit. "They think they can scare you into giving up," Tom said firmly. "But they don't know you. Your grandfather would be proud of you, Adam. You did what needed to be done." Adam gave a tired smile. "Now I need to defend myself. I cannot fight this alone. I need a lawyer." Tom nodded. "I know someone. A woman named Clara. She's sharp and fair. She doesn't bow to big groups like the HOA. Let me give you her number." The next day, Adam met Clara in her small but tidy office. She was calm and direct, her eyes steady as she read through the lawsuit papers. "They are accusing you of destroying property that they never had the right to build," Clara said after a long pause. "This case is not simple, but you have a strong position. The deed and county records support your claim. We will fight this." Her confidence gave Adam hope. They spent hours going over the documents, organizing every detail, and preparing their strategy. Clara explained that the HOA would try to drag the case out, hoping to drain Adam of energy and money. But Adam was determined. A week later, the first court session began. The courtroom was filled with people, some from the neighborhood, curious to see the battle. The HOA arrived with 3 lawyers, all in dark suits, carrying piles of folders. Mr. Green sat proudly in the front row, his sharp glasses gleaming. Adam sat beside Clara, holding the folder of his grandfather's papers. His heart pounded, but he kept his face calm. The judge entered, and the session began. The HOA's lawyers spoke first, their voices smooth and polished. They painted Adam as reckless, claiming he had destroyed property meant for the enjoyment of the entire community. They spoke of costs, damages, and broken trust. When it was Clara's turn, she rose with quiet strength. She placed the deed on the judge's desk and unfolded the county map. "This is the truth," she said clearly. "The land belongs to Adam. It has belonged to his family for decades. The HOA built a cabin without permission, without legal right, and without respect for ownership. My client simply removed an illegal structure from his own land." Her words carried weight, and Adam felt relief as the judge leaned closer to study the papers. Still, he knew the fight was only beginning. The HOA's lawyers did not back down. They argued that their maps showed the lake as community property. They insisted Adam had no right to act on his own without official approval. The session ended with no decision. More hearings would follow, and the battle stretched ahead like a long road. Adam walked out of the courthouse into the afternoon sun, his shoulders heavy but his spirit unbroken. Mr. Green passed by with a cold smile. "This will not end well for you," he whispered. Adam looked him in the eye. "We'll see whose truth stands in the end." As Adam drove home, he felt the weight of the storm around him. The HOA had struck back, but he was not afraid. He had begun this fight to protect his family's land, and he would not stop now. The courtroom battles stretched on for weeks. Each session felt like a tug of war between truth and power. The HOA lawyers spoke with smooth confidence, waving their documents in the air. They claimed the community had invested money into the cabin, that it was unfair for one man to destroy what belonged to many. Adam sat quietly beside Clara, his lawyer, as she countered each claim with calm facts. She brought forward the deed, the county maps, and even copies of old tax records showing Adam's grandfather had paid for the land year after year. Still, the HOA lawyers found ways to delay, to question, to twist the story. One day, Clara leaned close to Adam before the session began. "I think there is something they are hiding," she whispered. "Their maps do not look official. They look altered. If we can prove that, the case will turn in our favor." Adam nodded. "How do we prove it?" Clara gave a small smile. "We will need to request the originals from the county office. If the HOA changed anything, we will see it." The judge allowed the request, and soon the county clerk, the same man Adam had spoken to weeks earlier, arrived with a box of records. He carried the originals into the courtroom and placed them on the judge's desk. Clara stood and asked the clerk to explain. The older man adjusted his glasses and pointed to the large map spread out before everyone. "This is the official survey map from 40 years ago," he said. "It shows the lake and all land around it as private property belonging to Adam's grandfather. No part of this area was ever listed as community property." The judge nodded, but before anyone could speak, one of the HOA lawyers rose quickly. He placed another map beside it. This one looked newer, its lines bolder and cleaner. "This," the lawyer said, "is the updated map, which shows the lake as shared property of the Lakeview community." The clerk frowned as he studied it. "This is not from our office. The seal here is false. This map is not official." A quiet gasp spread through the courtroom. Clara stepped forward at once. "Your Honor, this proves the HOA submitted false documents. They built the cabin on land that was never theirs. My client is not guilty of destroying community property. He only removed an illegal structure." Mr. Green, sitting in the front row, shifted uncomfortably. His jaw tightened, and for the first time, his confidence seemed to crack. The judge looked sternly at the HOA lawyers. This court does not take lightly the use of false documents. We will review this matter carefully. For now, the burden rests with the HOA to explain why such a map was used. After the session ended, Adam stepped outside with Clara. The crowd of neighbors whispered among themselves, some shocked, others nodding in support. Clara placed a hand on Adam's shoulder. This is a turning point. If we keep pressing, the truth will win. That night, Adam visited Tom to share the news. Tom's eyes lit up when he heard about the false map. I knew they were trying to cheat you, Tom said firmly. This proves it. Your grandfather's land is safe. But Adam was not celebrating yet. He knew the HOA would not give up so easily. They still had money, connections, and the will to fight. He also knew Mr. Green was not the type to admit defeat. The next session confirmed his fear. The HOA lawyers avoided speaking of the false map. Instead, they tried a new tactic. They accused Adam of acting with violence, saying he should have waited for legal action instead of demolishing the cabin himself. They painted him as reckless, dangerous, and disrespectful of order. Clara stood tall against their words. He acted because the HOA was breaking the law on his land. A man has the right to defend his property, especially when others trespass and build without consent. The judge listened carefully but gave no ruling that day. The tension in the courtroom grew heavy. Adam felt the weight of every word, but he also felt something else: a growing support from the people around him. Some neighbors who once stayed silent now came to shake his hand after the hearings. They whispered words of encouragement, telling him to stay strong. For Adam, the fight was no longer only about land. It had become about truth against lies, honesty against power. As he walked home after another long day in court, he looked at the lake shining under the moonlight and whispered, "This place will stay free. I will not let them win." The courthouse was full on the morning of the final hearing. Word had spread through the town about Adam's battle with the HOA. Some came out of curiosity, others to show support, and a few out of loyalty to the association. The air was heavy with tension as people waited to see what the judge would decide. Adam sat quietly at the front beside Clara. He felt the weight of weeks of arguments, late nights studying documents, and endless pressure. His hands rested on the folder that carried his grandfather's deed, though by now everyone in the courtroom had seen it many times. Across the room sat Mr. Green, looking stiff and serious, his lawyers whispering quickly in his ear. The judge entered and called the court to order. His voice was calm but firm as he spoke. We are here today to give final judgment in the matter of Adam Miller versus Lakeview HOA. The first to speak was the HOA's lead lawyer. He stood tall, his voice steady. Your Honor, we acknowledge the earlier questions about documents. However, this case is not simply about land. It is about responsibility. Mr. Miller acted recklessly when he destroyed the cabin. Even if ownership of the land is his, he should not have taken matters into his own hands. His actions caused financial loss to the community, and that cannot be ignored. The lawyer sat down, leaving a ripple of murmurs across the room. Adam kept his eyes forward, waiting for Clara's response. Clara rose slowly, her tone clear and strong. Your Honor, this case is not about reckless behavior. It is about a man protecting his home and his family's legacy. The HOA built a cabin without consent, on land that has belonged to Adam's family for decades. The county clerk has confirmed the original maps. The deed proves ownership. The so-called updated map was false, submitted to mislead this court. The cabin itself was an illegal structure. My client did not act recklessly. He acted within his rights as the lawful owner. She paused, then stepped closer to the judge's desk. The real question is not whether Adam should have waited. The real question is why the HOA thought they could take land that was never theirs. That is the heart of this case. The judge listened without expression. When Clara sat down, silence filled the courtroom. All eyes turned to the bench. The judge leaned forward. This court has reviewed the documents, the testimony, and the evidence. The deed from Adam's grandfather is valid. The county records confirm that the lake and surrounding land belong to Adam Miller. The map submitted by the HOA is found to be false and carries no legal weight. Therefore, the cabin was built without permission, and Adam Miller had the right to remove it. Adam's heart lifted, but the judge was not finished. However, the judge continued, the method of removal is not ignored. It would have been better to wait for legal action. But given the circumstances, the court accepts that the structure was illegal. No damages will be awarded to the HOA. Instead, the HOA is ordered to cover all legal fees and to cease any claims over the land. This court rules in favor of Adam Miller. For a moment, the courtroom was silent. Then whispers spread quickly, followed by nods and a few quiet claps from Adam's supporters. Clara placed a steady hand on Adam's shoulder. "You did it," she said softly. Mr. Green's face was pale as he stood, his lawyers rushing to gather their files. He glanced once at Adam but said nothing before leaving the room. His confidence was gone, replaced by silence and defeat. Adam walked out of the courthouse into the bright afternoon sun. Tom was waiting outside, smiling proudly. "I knew the truth would win," Tom said, shaking his hand firmly. "Your grandfather would be proud today." Adam looked at the sky, feeling the weight lift from his shoulders. The land was safe, not only on paper but in spirit. The cabin was gone, and so was the shadow of the HOA's false claims. That evening, Adam stood once more by the lake. The water shimmered under the setting sun, calm and open, just as it had been in his childhood. He felt peace return to the place. No lights from a cabin, no voices claiming what was not theirs, only the quiet song of nature. He whispered into the wind, "This land will always stay ours. No one can take it away again." The battle had been long and heavy, but the truth had prevailed. Adam knew more struggles might come in life, but this victory gave him strength. He had faced power, lies, and pressure, and he had stood tall. The lake was his once more, and it would remain free for generations to come.